Hello and welcome to Churchy Chats with a Church Girl. I am so excited. Tonight is a continuation episode from our premiere, our season 3 premiere of our Musicians Tell All. So you might want to make sure everybody you know is in the room because it's going to get even juicier than it did last week. My name is Alicia Wiley. If this is your first time here, I am the owner and creator of A Church Girl, which is a lifestyle brand and a clothing line that seeks to inspire and uplift everyone we have the privilege of connecting with. We are now airing live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So make sure you like, follow, and subscribe on all platforms. And as usual, you can watch on your preferred platform. Listen, y'all, it's going to be good. I don't want to wait any longer. We're just going to jump right back into the conversation where we left off last week. Welcome back, y'all. Y'all ready to get in this hot seat a little further, a little more planted?
Let's go on go.
So here, as we were wrapping up last week, Lauren, we were talking about pay and how musicians are paid, and should contracts be reviewed and renewed, and when should you get a bump and all of that good stuff. And Lauren, she came in talking about giving, and I'm going to let her ask her question, and then I'm going to tack something on to that. Then we'll hear from the guys. So come on, Lauren, tell us what your question was about giving from the musician's perspective.
My question was in regards to tithing. Do musicians tithe 10% or above off of the earnings that they make from the churches they play for?
And the thing I'm going to just tack right on the end of that is, should musicians be seen giving? Now, we know that you are working, you all really don't get a break until the sermon, honestly. But sometimes, should you all be seen actually putting your money in the offering?
Actually walking around when they play Fred Hammond, We're Blessed.
Do you want offering music or do you want me to be seen giving? I mean, it just depends. I can give you this $20 in my pocket, but the tithe belongs to my home church.
Mm-hmm.
But you do tithe, though.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So at your home church, okay, I give online, right? And I've been doing that for years. And when I say online, I don't mean like, go on our website. My tithe is like a bill. It's scheduled, right? So it's sent. You would never really see me give because it's literally mailed to the church that I come to every day. So people wouldn't see me giving. So I understand that you can be giving and people don't necessarily see you giving, but sometimes the saints have a feeling about not seeing you give. Is it important that they see you give, or as long as you know you're giving, your pastor knows, does it matter what the people think?
Rich's facial expression has me cracking up. I will say, in the past, prior to like the advanced technology that we have now, you can Cash App, you can Venmo your pastor, you can do a lot of things, right? But I've seen musicians like have their envelope at whether it's drums, keyboard, and whomever does finance, deacons, they know like to go up to their instrument and collect it. But that's years ago, right? So now everyone's giving like online, Cash App, and all these other. So who really knows like who's giving and not giving? I feel like that perception that people want to have around, or want others to have around, how they worship and how committed they are and dedicated they are to being obedient to the Bible, right? Because people do, churches have a lot of different doctrine, but like people want to be seen doing the right thing in church. And I think whether you give or don't give doesn't always mean you're doing the right thing. So I don't
pressure. It's like the perception and the pressure is real, because I know there have been times where all I had on me was change. But because I wanted to be seen walking around and I didn't want anybody to look down upon me if I stayed in my seat, I put my change in the envelope and I walked it around and I put it in. So it's like we're going to extra length for the look of things or to avoid, certain stigmas or people saying certain things. But is it really effective if you're not giving cheerfully and honestly the portion of which God deserves?
That's good.
If your
And
mindset is that musicians don't give, then it doesn't matter whether you see me or not. You're going to have something to say about how much I gave, even though you don't know that. You're going to have something to say if you don't see me walk around, even though you don't know that some churches require it to come out of your check. Whose business is that if I'm giving or not? That's between me and God. And if it bothers you that much that you employ me and I'm not tithing to your church, then you find a musician that goes to your church, hire them, and let them pay tithes to your church. My tithes is personal between me, God, and my pastor.
right.
You know what I'm saying? So I shouldn't have to prove to your church who employs me that I'm doing it. My boss does not know how much taxes come out of my check. That's HR department. Stay in your department, men and women of God. Huh?
And I agree
Stay
with
in your
that.
lane.
If you are just working at a church and you don't belong to that church, then I wouldn't expect. I mean, I'm sure people do. I wouldn't expect you to, give a because first of all, you tithe to your church. So I know people expect certain things, but I think that's a bit of a stretch. But the saints sometimes have some unreasonable, requirements. You know, so, but I've never known. Y'all can speak to me on this about this. I've never known of a situation to where the tithe is taken off of the top.
My heart is burning.
So people out here doing this, like taking it off the top of your,
Wait,
like
what was
child
that,
support, like
Rich?
the government take out child support. What you say,
My
Rich?
heart is burning. I gotta get it out. I
Come on.
gotta get it
Did
out.
their hearts not burn? Come on. It's
Oh,
like fire shut up in your bones.
right. Okay.
Speak. Speak.
Help me, Holy Ghost. First of all, my giving is my personal business between me and God.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't have to be seen giving just to make others feel comfortable. I had a musician friend that played for a church, and he told me they take tithes out automatically. And I'm like, first of all, if you're taking it out automatically, then you're taking away the option of me to give personally. Because let's just say you give me $250 a week, and you taking out $25. I might would have felt generous and gave an extra $20. You just never
Right.
know.
Mm-hmm.
But my personal opinion is that the church that I'm a member of, that's the church I give my tithes to.
Right.
Now, one ministry I did play for, I did give my offering to them.
Mm-hmm.
And, I did tithe at my church. I just did it because, they love me and they took care of me well. So I didn't mind giving, the offering part to them. But my tithes did go to my home church. But I don't believe that a musician should be seen trying to give to make others feel comfortable. No. That's just my personal opinion.
And when you is this a word? This is my preacher word for the night.
Come on, word.
When
Come
you
on.
when you gratuitize God,
Shut up.
when you gratuitize God, then
My
sometimes you
God.
get less. I'm with you, brother Rich. Then sometimes you get less than what you would have got. That's why I tell
My
people at
God.
the restaurant, if you give gratuity, if you put gratuity in there and the gratuity comes out to $3, then that's all you get. You don't know what else God has done for me during the week
See?
that
Come
I
on.
could have tithed off that. But because you were so selfish, huh?
Mm.
And you gratuitized God.
That's a
That's
word, sir.
that's ugly.
That's
So ugly.
that's good teaching. That's good teaching. Yeah.
And I honestly, I have never heard of that. I think that it is a bit, and I don't want to, you know, speak crazily. That's not even a word, but we make up words as Christians. I think it's ridiculous, honestly, because that Does every employee of the church automatically get their tithes taken off the top? So where is my obedience to God in that? Where is my willingness? Where is my obedience? I mean, that's a lot. And
Right.
if you have to take my tithes off the top, then I'm good. I can't work here because I need you to trust that the God in me, I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? Don't hire me if you don't trust me. To me, that's a trust issue.
Mm-hmm.
you know. And if I never tithe, then that's between me and God. That's not none of your business. I'm robbing God. Should a man rob God? Let that be between me and God, not between me, you, and God. What at
Right.
that point it's not between me, you, and God. It's between you and my check. But you're not just gonna take my money out. I don't care if it is for the tithe. Don't touch my money.
Exactly. Exactly.
Rich, you know what I'm saying? Don't touch
Yeah,
my ends.
exactly. Because when I see my check, I want all my money.
Period.
Well,
And
my
that's the way it
solution
should
for
be.
that is if they want to take it off the top, then maybe we need to talk about a 10% raise. Then we need this out.
That's one way.
Oh, there you go.
That's one way.
Right.
And I think that's interesting. So you all have taught me something tonight because I was not at all familiar with that type of situation, and y'all know how I feel about it. Okay, so we know the saints have their feeling about the musicians, and the main thing that the saints always want to talk about, is relationships and things like that. So let's go on and get into it. Okay, so you all know that there always seem to be, everybody getting them a little sip, huh? I see. There always seems to be drama surrounding relationships with church musicians. Well, musicians, period. But since we're talking about the church, there always seems to be the drama. Women are, and men, I'm not going to be unfair in this, women and men are drawn to you because of most of the time because of your gifts, right? Because you see somebody to see somebody do their thing. Let's be honest. There's something attractive about seeing people in their element, right? There's something attractive about seeing people do something that they do well, and they're flowing and all of that stuff. And the musicians, y'all are right up there with the preachers. So talk to us about what's the deal with your romantic relationships and the drama that always seems to be surrounding them. Talk
Are
to
all
us.
musicians whoremongers?
Not
Anytime you
all.
want to speak your mind, Lauren.
Mm-mm.
Not all.
Not all. Not all. I have been, and that's just me being honest. I have been, and the issue was I've been touring since the eighth grade. The issue was I had
Mm.
too many options. So for one, I didn't even lose my virginity until I was 18. I waited because I didn't want to have children. Then when I turned 18, I became the biggest hoarder Church Kojic has ever seen. Now I got three kids, three baby mamas in three different states. So the issue was me. I was a womanizer. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't honest about who I had in my back, front, left, right pocket.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And everybody that was interested, I was entertaining. So yeah, there was drama. But I was also a young kid that took advantage of what said women felt when I would take the microphone, when I would do my job.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did they know about each other? I'm sure. But do you really care? Let's ask that.
Mm.
When you know what you know and you ignore it, sounds like a you problem, woman of God.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, bless his high name.
Yeah, and we definitely as women have to take accountability for when we look the other way, because we are content with our time, and the peace that we have. And
Mm-hmm.
in those moments where we pretty much are delusional in thinking that we can change you. We can be that one, we can be that woman that makes you want to settle down, or that cooks well enough, cleans well enough, dresses well enough, is in good with your family, and, is anointed enough to make you want to throw everybody else away and just walk into wedded bliss with us. And a lot of times we take that as a challenge. The people that are nice, that are readily available, we don't always think are interesting enough. So we go for that challenge, and we pursue, and we hope that, if we can show you a couple of intimate tricks that, it might change your life. And a lot of times that just doesn't
Swing
happen
from the
that way.
chandeliers.
Is it enough? Is it enough? Do you want it that bad to ignore what you know
Exactly.
to go after a musician that you know is hoeing around? That's just like who said that? Renata, did you say it? Is there any accountability? Do y'all ignore what you see? We know. The difference between musicians is we hear what you've done with our dear brother, and we want to find out for ourselves.
Oh, my
But y'all, what is it about you that knows, then still goes after it? It happens to you, and then you get mad and post my text messages on Facebook and Instagram.
oh my God.
That's not what has that happened to you?
Never in the world.
Okay.
Send all my messages on Snapchat. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Because they disappear.
That's right. No, I'll be sitting. I'm saved for real this time.
Every day.
John, Rich, I have another question to kind of add to that, but before we move to that, do you all have, anything to say on that particular topic?
Man,
Why the drama?
Personally,
let me.
I never dealt with drama like that because I know
Okay.
everybody in the churches that I served at. So I can't really speak on that because all the people that I dealt.
I got you, Elder. I got you, Elder.
I dealt with
got you.
was outside of the church because I wasn't really a person that really liked drama. I still so I really like whatever I did was people that was outside the church. So
Yeah, you were wise enough not to waste where you eat.
I was
that's
just
the cleaned up version.
I didn't say I'm perfect, but
Right.
I just did it within my church.
You kept it separate.
Yeah, I kept it very separate because I don't like because church folks getting your business quick,
Facts.
and you ready to go tell the pastor, and then they add to it, and then next thing you know, you looking crazy. I seen it happen to other people. I was like, okay, so I know what to avoid. Okay, bet.
Right. John, what say ye?
So I'm kind of in the same sentiments as JoJo. The only thing is that I conversations like this around musicians, it honestly it doesn't just reflect musicians, but I look at it as men as a whole perspective, because oftentimes you find men who aren't able to be real with themselves and actually have that real conversation and say, okay, I'm messed up. I'm a messed up dude, and there's some things that I do that I really don't like, but I do them because I enjoy it. And I think the moment when people can be real with themselves, and I was the dude 10 plus years ago. I was a force to be reckoned with. I was something terrible
I'm so glad the
in the
Lord
church and
saved
outside
you.
the church.
My God.
I mean, and we go to church right after,
Huh.
and had something set up right after that service. So I mean,
You just had a schedule, huh?
I did. It was real.
Appointments.
And it was women in the church. It was women in the church that knew who I was, knew what I did, and knew what I didn't want. So it wasn't, and in the sense of what Lauren was saying, there was that one or two that felt as though, oh, maybe I can change his mind, or maybe I can change his perspective, or maybe I can give him different insight. But my mindset didn't change, and I wasn't able to have that conversation with myself to be like, you messed up, little dude.
I have a question about that, because this all sounds very like women in pursuit of you all. So are you guys saying you don't pursue women in the church?
Not
Definitely
at all.
pursue.
So here's
Not.
that is
Okay,
so so
I'm
so I'm going to give y'all the insight. This is for free. I'm not even going to charge you for this one. So during offering time, that is peak point. There, if you hear musicians say certain keywords that only they would understand, they've seen something that came around in that line that blessed their eyes.
not just musicians, preachers too.
What's the key word? Wait
Yeah,
a minute. Hold on. Roll
You
it
know they're
back.
not
I
gonna give
can't.
us
Not,
all the
not,
goods,
not.
Lauren.
Yeah, I'm about to say now that's gonna cost you.
They're not gonna give us all the goods.
Well, I mean, we pursue, but that's what I was saying earlier. Most of the people at that time in that age that I was in, I pursued them because most of them girls had already been with people I knew. So I wanted to hear if the story was true. Huh? But as I grew older, for one, I learned the main thing. For one, why are you talking to girls in the church you work in? So I had to learn that because I wasn't going to lose no job behind that. And
Right.
I got into that one time and it almost destroyed. It wasn't about me. It was my mom was a youth pastor. So it was crazy. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't want that. I got called a womanizer one time in my whole life, and I vowed that would never happen again. So I had to make some changes uh, because at the core of it, I think what John is saying, at the core of it, we were the issue. We were the drama because we knew that you liked me and your friend liked me, but I was determined to keep both of y'all a secret, and y'all were determined to keep each other a secret until you got mad.
Now, let me ask you all this. This is not really a musician centric question as much as it's a man centric question. Um, you hear stories of, what happened with Ronnie, Bobby, Ricky, and Mike. Do you really want to be Ralph, like, and be that last one to see if the story is true? Because that's not how women work. We don't want the thing that has been passed around. You know, and men, I know y'all are tricky because see, y'all want the thing that has been passed around to play with, but you don't want the thing that has been passed around to be your main thing. You understand? But what is the appeal? I mean, I know what the appeal is, but I mean, do you really want to be with the community OPP? Is that what we doing? I'm just, you know,
It's rough
y'all
in
can
here.
speak to this.
No, is the honest answer. Um, but you got to think most musicians aren't looking for forever. They're looking for tonight and right now in the moment. And if that's what I've had women tell me, if you're not interested in really getting to know me, then don't take my number. You know what I'm saying? And just like y'all think you could change, I mean, it's a sport at this point. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't want to sound insensitive because I do think women are precious and they deserve to be treated as such. Um, but sometimes you ain't you can only be so honest. And if I say to you, I think you're beautiful, I think you're very smart, but I don't want nothing from you. Now, most of y'all women have heard this from musicians, so you already know. Why wouldn't you take me for what I said instead of wanting to see if you could change me? Now, if I'm saying to you, I think you're great, I think you're smart, and trust me, I know that actions, but this is what I asked a young woman before. Do I have to treat you like mess for you to hear what I'm saying and not look at what I'm doing? Because me telling you I don't want a relationship and me still being kind to you for some reason is saying, oh, he don't mean what he's saying. So I've dealt with a lot of that, and that's me dealing with me. I've been spending since the pandemic just trying to fix that about myself because I don't want to have to ignore your calls and tell you not to call me at this time and do all of this other stuff just for you to understand what I said, for you to hear what I said for real. But I also don't want to play a game anymore. And I
Yeah.
did that for so many years and I was good at it. But at this point, I just don't want to do it no more.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just speaking as your friend, it can be very endearing to a woman because I mean, like, let's be transparent. We are cool, and when I went to Atlanta, he showed me an amazing time to the point where when I tried to pay, he looked at me and was like, "What type of men have you been around? Like that's not what we do."
Mm-hmm.
So to him, that's just common decency. That's him being a gentleman. You know what I mean? And then like when we went to the rehearsal that I talked about, and we talked about how it is to see people in their element. You know, to see a man go vulnerable and really pour himself out to God and really usher in the spirit like that. It's like
It's
to you,
attractive.
that's just your personal time with God.
It
But
can
to a
be.
woman who is watching and witnessing, that's husband material.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like you said, how can you balance being yourself and being a gentleman and extending common courtesy, and the line between, you know, I don't want to have to treat you crazy just so that you know that I told you up front I don't want a relationship and that's what I meant.
And there is some unfairness on the side of women. We will jump into situations either thinking we're going to change somebody or trying to make it something it's not. So I'm not going to pretend that women don't play a part in it. John, I'm not playing with you. I just, I just needed to know the perspective from both sides, and I'm not sure if the musicians, and we talked a little bit about this on the first segment, if it's let's say it's an elder and a musician, come together, they have a baby out of wedlock. I feel like the woman always gets the brunt of it. I'm telling the truth, JoJo. Don't be laughing. They will get the brunt of it. And even if it's just because I need him, I don't really need you like that. So, you're the Jezebel, you're the this, but I'm like, okay, well, he still gets a play, but I have to come to church and sit in the back row and wear a veil and my scarlet letter. Like, how, where is the equity and
So,
the discipline?
ooh,
That's all I'm
ooh.
saying. But that's all.
so so here's the thing. In most cases, or in some cases, you have a lot of musicians who have gained the aspect of preaching, and some of them are preachers.
Yeah.
So in the sense, some pastors
Mistakenly.
feel
Some
as,
of them are mistakenly preachers. Let's say
oh,
that. But
Father
you're
God,
right.
here we go.
You're right. You're right, though. Continue.
But I think in the sense, some pastors feel as though, okay, I can take that musician that I pay every week to
Hmm.
go stand in the back and be an usher. I can have him go stand with the offering basket and be a deacon. I can have him stand up here, show him the ropes. Because in most cases, the musicians are with the pastors anyway. They can tell you exactly what he's going to do, what he's going to say, and oftentimes mimic the pastor better than he can mimic himself, and basically preach. So in a sense,
Hmm.
yeah, he may have gotten her pregnant, but the musician still holds a specific amount of value, not just to the pastor but to the church. And I mean
That's an
that's harsh to
interesting
say.
perspective.
That's harsh to say, but I mean in some cases it's a reality.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and a lot of times, if the dirt is well concealed and if it's done outside of the church, then they're not going to be set down or they're not going to
Hmm.
be rebuked because a lot of times that woman also has too much to lose. I mean, part of my testimony, I met someone who was a musician and I flat out told that person, I said, I have had the worst conversations about musicians. I've heard all the stigmas about musicians. I don't want any parts. Like, leave me alone. And that person pursued me and was like, no, I'm different. You know, I've been a victim of people saying things about me and saying that I use my musical gifts to woo women and I'm like Lucifer, but it's
Oh
all
my God.
lies. And I just want to show you I'm different. And
JoJo.
eventually that person works hard. Like, we were on the phone just conversing, and he was on his keyboard playing Name That Tune. I bet you don't know this song. I bet you don't know that song. And I'm a sucker for 90s music. So before I knew it, I was wrapped in, and he literally lived out every stereotype I'd ever heard and some I didn't even know about. It was a
Yeah, that sounds a
nightmare.
little Lucifer-ish.
A nightmare.
That sounds a little Lucifer-esque in the fact that it was hook, line, and sinker.
Yes.
You know, and
That's demonic, though.
I I'm almost with you, JoJo. I'm right there with you because a chameleon will change his colors.
Yeah,
You
and
know.
so for the longest, I didn't say anything, and I still don't reveal who that person is. So I mean, he's able to live his life as normal, because for me, once I found out the truth about him and how he was living a double life, when he was telling me he was touring, when he was telling me he was in the studio, well, it turns out he was married. So you know what I mean? I am in a different state. So I never got to say to his congregation or to any women that he might encounter, like, save yourself. And I'm not the person that's going to go on Facebook, because that's just not in my character. I'm not going to air you out like that. I'm just going to take it as a lesson and move forward. But it is definitely a part of my testimony when I see those signs in other women.
But can I thank women like yourself and all the women that even from my past alone that have covered me and not embarrassed me and not shown the world who I was or was trying to be at that time, because honestly, that could have destroyed so many of us. So thank y'all, legit. You know what I'm saying? You may not talk to me to this day, and that's probably for the best. However, still, you know what I'm saying? We forget sometimes musicians can think they're untouchable because people do need us. That's just clear. They do need us. But on the other side of that is I'll never want to get to the point where I feel like I'm untouchable or my scandal won't be known because people are protecting me. I don't. My granddad used to say never.
Yes. Yes, that's important. And you learn that the older you get, you know, I was oh no, you'll never. And at probably about 15, I was like, okay, we're not going to say that anymore. Cause you start living and you understand that things just don't happen the way you always intend for them to happen. So you don't, like to write those checks that your behind might not be able to cash, so you're very selective with what you say. But, here is, I guess it's a little sticky, but you don't have to give details to this question. And it's mainly for what it looks like to come full circle. So, and ladies, if you have experience with this in your churches and, connections, you can speak on this as well. Gentlemen, have you all been involved in a scandal? And if so, how were you able to overcome it and be
Do you know what
received
I'm here,
received? How are you able to overcome it? I'm sure there may be a musician watching this that may feel like, I messed up. The world knows, and I will never recover from this. Again, you don't have to give the details of the scandal. If you want to, I mean, we're already here, but no pressure. It's just about, if you've been there, what does recovery look like?
There's hesitation. I'll go. I've not been a part of a scandal, what I consider to be a scandal, but I have been drawn into scenarios that I didn't even know could create a scandal based on the reputation that said people had that I wasn't even aware of. Like as we spoke about earlier, women, there's this connotation that they are active musicians. They came to the church just for the musicians. And there are times when it's not really that. It's just an innocent interaction that now, because of the reputation that said person has, or the stereotypes that people have around musicians, like you automatically become a part of this, and then your life is looked at in a certain way because you are now grouped into this situation and possibly a part of a scandal that is currently brewing or going on right now. You're a part of the storyline and you had no clue, no idea what was going on. And I think musicians, like, they're not all created equal, right? There are many that go and serve and worship and do their best to, like all of us, right? Because no one is perfect, do their best to live right before the Lord and before their congregation. But like in any circumstance, we're all human, and there are times where things happen, right? And for me particularly, I being a single mother, right, in the church is already like what really happened there? How did that, like, what's going on, right? And I've always like not really cared, right? Because that's not your problem. It's not even a problem. It's really just my life, and I'm happy to live it, right? So I think that musicians, and you guys who speak to this, are a little hesitant to discuss these things because they want so badly for it to be off of everybody's mind, and it kind of never goes away. Like they hold them to it, like till death. It's like this situation lives with them, and I don't think that's fair.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll touch bases with it. I mean, since we already, I don't mind being transparent with it because I mean, my son is 5. So, but when my son was conceived, I was in a 3-year relationship at the time with another woman, and we were going through a very rocky place in our relationship, and I stepped out and did what I thought was gonna make me feel good for the moment. And 9 months later, my son was born. And for the longest, I struggled with trying to come to grips with I'm I'm a ministry worker, I'm a musician, I'm a preacher. I I serve my pastor, I represent my pastor in my church, and now I am going to be in my mind. I'm going to be a sense of a face of embarrassment, not just to my church, but to this man I look up to as my pastor. And like I said, like I said last week, it put me in a place of depression, to where I found myself sick, trying to hold this secret of I've made a kid out of wedlock, and I don't know who to tell, and I don't know who to talk to. And something told me to get courage and just talk to my pastor. He was the first person I talked to. And when I talked to my pastor, I said, "Look, Papa, I need to talk to you." And he was like, "Okay, well, what's going on?" And he looked me in my eyes and said, "You got a baby?" I said, "Yes, sir, I do." And he said, "By the look of your face, it ain't my girl neither." I said, "No, sir, it's not." And I immediately broke into tears, and he looked at me and said, "Okay, so what you gonna do?" And I guess in that moment, it made me reflect on the entire situation. And his words to me was, you have to prepare yourself for whatever the worst may be. If she decides she want to leave you, she don't want to do no matter this, you have to prepare yourself for that. And I think that whole process helped me grow up, because I was able to face a reality I wasn't willing to face about myself. And so I think oftentimes, we that was my scandal for the week. All right, amen. Praise the Lord. Um, but I think oftentimes we other musicians they deal with this and they don't necessarily know how to process the reality of their emotions and actually how to channel it. Because I mean, even in that moment, again, I didn't know who I could talk to that was not going to judge me because I was already judging myself in a sense.
Mm-hmm. Who? That is probably a lot of people's or musicians, people, period, Christians,
Yeah.
testimony. Where do I take it? I've already beaten myself up beyond, far beyond anybody else could do. But the fear of opening up and having that to happen from the outside, what is already happening so intensely in the inside, is is intimidating. JoJo, talk to us.
Yes, Jojo, have
Um.
you had any scandals?
Uh, yes, but none that anybody knows about. Um, in the middle of an open scandal that nobody knew that I was a part of, and that was because she covered me, one, and two, her husband couldn't prove it anyway, and sat in the car next to him while he told me, "I think she's cheating on me." I'm sitting there thinking to myself, "That's right," but the shameful part of it was these were my friends. These were people that I cared about. And then on the other end of it, now talking to people who I know love me and I love in return, that's their view of me. You know what I'm saying? Let me watch my wife around JoJo. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking to myself, for one, your wife is not attractive, not even a little bit.
You know
But
what?
that's not in this. That's not a part. That's not a part of this. You chose her, and I'm grateful, and I did a great job at your wedding. But the issue is, um, it's shameful. You know what I'm saying? You carry this around, and you want to be. That's right, John. You want to be trusted amongst people that you love and you care about. Um, but here's one thing I know: honesty doesn't always yield great results, but it's worth always telling. Um, and sometimes being honest with people will cause them to walk away from you and dismiss themselves out of your life. And for that um, is what's shameful for me, because to know what I could have had, um, and who I thought I was supposed to have. The person that I thought loved me more than anything, and that I felt like I loved more than anything, walked away because I was being somebody that I really wasn't. I thought I was supposed to do these things on tour. I thought I was supposed to go out and do whatever. So my royal oats, you know what I'm saying? And it just led to me being in the place where I am now at 36, which is trying to understand who I am emotionally and relationally. Because once my mother passed away, then there was no way that I was going to take the time to actually get to know another woman ever again, for her to die and me feeling like nobody else can ever love me like that ever again. So it affected me in so many ways, because I was already in the middle of trying to fix one thing about myself, only to walk through this huge door of complete disappointment, that I would fall in love, love somebody unconditionally, and then she will die. And
Whew.
that's just the end of it.
Yeah.
So I live my life in a very careful way because of what I've done. Not because I'm afraid it's going to come back on me, because I've changed and I've done things differently to show that. And people believe in karma and some of this other stuff. What goes around comes around. I understand all of that. But my view on everything is so different than everybody else's that I can't tell you if my wife steps out on me that I'm walking away from her. I've never been married, so I don't even know what that looks like, and I don't want to. However, I realize that I've made mistakes that have led me to this place where I am today, that has my own scandal in my mind, being, who are you going to love? How are you going to love? Will y'all stay in love? And are you enough? Will she be enough for me to be what she needs me to be, or who she needs me to be?
That's good. That's good. And I think oftentimes we put the scandal or the situation on what is brought to the light. And we don't often deal with our personal scandals and deal with ourselves accordingly if we if it had been public. And usually when it's public, most people, and I don't want to say most people, but a lot of people pretend to do the work. Right? We pretend to do what we need to do to be restored. And I'm not just talking about in the church, just in general.
In general.
But it's almost better if it's a personal thing, and if your reason for getting better is not because people are looking at you, it's because you want to be better. You know, Lauren, you want to jump in here?
Yeah, for me, with the man who I found out was married, I didn't find out because he confessed, and I didn't find out because all the many times that things didn't add up, I asked him questions and he was honest. The way that I found out is because his father passed away in the middle of the pandemic. And so instead of how his family typically did things, which was, dual funerals, dual cities, so everyone has a chance to go, everyone had to come to one place, and it had to be very intimate. Only a certain amount of people could be at the service, and everyone else had to go to the wake. And he was trying his best to throw me off the trail, to keep me from the wake. And despite that funeral home saying anybody can come, but you have to come in tens, he was adamant about telling me, no, it's closed off. If you're not family, you can't come. So I'm not a, confrontational person. I'm not going to chase you. I'm not going to beg. So I fell back. And I ended up getting a phone call from a minister that used to be my pastor, who was present at the funeral. And this minister had seen he and I together when he would come to town. We even did an event together that this minister was present at, was part of. So he called after the funeral to my aunt and asked my aunt, did Lauren know that this man was married? Because the same man that sat with her in my office is the same man who introduced his wife, and in the obituary, this woman is listed as his wife. So even though I didn't, jump in her inbox, I didn't make a big scene, I didn't show up to anything, there were still a few people who knew because of how he did things when he brought her here. He was used to coming to my city and living a whole different life, but for the funeral, he had no choice but to bring her here. So it was pretty embarrassing for me. But eventually I feel like the pastor knew my heart. And because of the fact that I'm not the type of person that, I'm the bounce back advocate. So I'm used to telling my business. I'm used to creating the narrative surrounding my story and when I want to share it and how I want to share it. It wasn't like my life was over, my dreams were over, because hey, this is what I do. I bounce back from crazy stuff. But it was definitely heart-wrenching, and it definitely put me in a position where I didn't know if I would ever love anybody again.
And it's good to hear it from both perspectives. I think oftentimes, we either hear it strongly from one side or, strongly from the other. But I mean, it happens to the best of us. Rich, I don't know if you want to jump in on this here particular topic, but this has been a wonderful conversation. I appreciate you all being here and being transparent, on this tell-all episode. And as we get ready to draw to the close, what would you all say is the biggest misconception about church musicians? What is out there that is just not, I mean, it may be true, but it's just not true for all, but people just, throw you in that stereotype, and it's hard to, I don't want to say prove, because I'm not saying that you're living your life to prove a point to people, but it's hard to, be seen as anything other than that. What are these misconceptions that you all would like to just kind of debunk, if you could, in a few moments?
That we're money hungry.
Mm-hmm.
Money hungry. That's one of the main ones. Like, some of us are actually doing it for ministry, even though we're being, compensated. But we're some of us are really doing it from the heart. Or some of us are doing it for God. Not to be seen or to be heard, but we're actually really doing it for ministry purpose.
That's good. That's good. John?
That all musicians are not homongers. We there are some of us that have good hearts. There are some of us that have actually gone through life and that has grown up. We may have been homongers in our former lives, but things change, people change. Just as everybody, just as you got skeletons in your closets, we do too. And I just believe that our musicians aren't homongers. Shoot, some musicians do marriage well.
Yes, that's very true.
Some musicians they wear
Like
it really
Rich.
good. Yeah, like
Right,
Rich.
like Rich. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Brother
JoJo, what's the
Joe,
big misconception that you want to debunk?
go easy on Mr.
That we don't care about nothing, that we don't have love in our hearts for real, and that we don't want to settle down and be with one person. Um, it's a struggle when you have too many options. Um, it's difficult. That's not just a man problem; it's a woman problem as well. When people that complain and down you for having too many options are typically people that have none. They do the most talking. The men and the women that nobody's looking at. So they wouldn't even begin to understand. All they can do is judge because they're in a place of jealousy and envy. Um,
That's good.
but at some point in time, we will desire that. But you got to be honest with you, and I have to be honest with me. So that's what I want people to get out of their minds, is that all we want to do is play. No, we want somebody to play with, and that one person to be a lifetime person to play with. Um, but when I wake up and get to that place, hopefully you're ready to be there too. Everybody isn't at the same level at the same time. And I know that because I've lost many great ones not being ready, but I was honest about that. I was willing to lose you, so that I didn't waste your time and break your heart. That's it.
Yeah, and that's admirable. Ladies, any closing words on this tell all musicians episode? Are y'all good? Y'all good? Lauren, any last words?
I don't even know if we have time for my question. Maybe if just one person can't answer it, because I've been burning with this question.
It's been burning inside of you.
Yes, I want to know why musicians that play instruments are held at a certain value, but vocalists seem to be on a volunteer basis, whether it's in the church choir, whether it's being a part of a choir in a recording. Why aren't the choir members not paid or compensated, but musicians command this high dollar amount? Because, I mean, you need voices for the music, so they're just as important.
It has been
That's
my JoJo speak on it.
that's a that's a tough thing. Everywhere I've been, the musician has been the priority, and I think it's because When you think about the job of the musician, it's not that they're exactly working any harder. But for some people, it can be difficult to set an atmosphere or create anything without music behind them. You look at different people, um, and you look at what they do, and you imagine hearing them do it without music, and you're thinking to yourself, you probably can't, you know what I'm saying, handle this atmosphere, this moment without any music. So they tend to place that demand, even though a musician doesn't typically sing one thing
Hmm.
or say anything. Um, but good luck at finding a church or a gig that's paying singers and musicians equally. They're typically making much more than any praise and worship leader or background vocalist will ever make.
And I think as it relates to like the choir as a whole, that's always been whosoever will let them come pretty much. Now, we have praise leaders who are skilled, and that's what they do. Now we have, you know, background vocalist. This is what I do. But in the church, the choir and even the praise team has always been understood that it was a volunteer, situation. So I think just the way it's approached has always been different. That's my vantage point as it relates to that. But that's a good question, Lauren, because everything works together, right? So listen,
Yes,
y'all.
because
Go
instrumentals
ahead.
are great, but it's something different when Sister Frida gets up and does her solo and just takes everybody higher. So how come Sister Frida can't get a little envelope at the end of the service?
Since the free to go get that good chicken flip, yeah.
Yes, she is, and a little bit of red bean.
That's her
It's
payment.
a piece of
And
power.
she was able to offer her gift unto God. Listen, you all, this has been a great conversation. I have enjoyed it immensely. Thank you again for coming on, for being transparent. And the last thing I want to do is I just want everyone to tell people where people can find you on social, how they can follow you. They may want to book you, they may want to hire you away from your church. We don't know what people watching this broadcast might want to do, but they may want to connect with you. So Jojo, Lauren, Rich, Renata, John, tell everybody where to find you on social and how to connect with you.
Am I going first because I'm here?
Yes, sir.
uh, I am at JoJo's Voice on every single thing you can find. And I respond to all of my messages and to everybody. I would love to connect with you. I have a new single out called Never Left Me
Come
Alone
on,
on Morton
single.
Records and Ty Scott Records, produced and written by PJ Morton.
Come
So
on.
please support, if you will, my children. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here, Jojo. Thank you for joining the conversation tonight. Lauren, where can they find you, sis?
Yes, he's so modest, Grammy winning, but he's
Come
modest.
on. Come on, Grammy
uh,
winning.
but yes, you can find me. You can find me on Instagram at the Lauren Spearman, which you can see at the bottom of the screen. And for Facebook, it's simply my name, Lauren Spearman. For the podcast, it's Check on Your Strong Friends on any of your streaming platforms. And if you are looking to book me, please reach out to me via inbox or DM, and I will personally respond to you. And I'm available for any events, virtual or in person.
Thank you for being here, Lauren. I appreciate you. Rich, tell the people where to find you. Not the women, though. Not the women. We not gonna get nobody in trouble on this good churchy chats.
You can find me on IG at the bottom of the screen at RJ Moss 3 and also on Facebook, Richard J. Moss III. You probably can just follow me. I have 5,000 friends, but if I'm cool with you, I'm willing to go through my friend list and
Look at that.
snip something. Get rid of it. All right.
Thank you for being on, Rich. I appreciate it. Renata, sis, come on, tell the people. You on mute, mama.
I get into the habit of staying on mute. It's better you get accidentally on mute than off mute.
Yes, the
But I
hot
love
mic can be
y'all.
very dangerous.
Okay. But I enjoyed all of you tonight. I am so glad and grateful that you were willing to share your stories. I am Renata Del Carmen, and you can find me at I am Renata Del Carmen on Instagram, Renata Del Carmen on Facebook, and Renata in Style on Twitter when I'm cutting up.
Cutting up. Renata is my dear, dear friend. Thank you for being here, my love. I appreciate you.
I love you.
Come on, John, tell the people.
I am John Walker Jr. on Facebook and everywhere else you can put at JDub Music 504. I am like JoJo. I answer all messages. And you can Google as well. Thank
You can use
God.
the good Google.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
Listen, gentlemen, I want to thank you all, and ladies, particularly the musicians, though, I want to thank you all because a lot of time, you may not get some of what you deserve as it relates to not money, but respect and appreciation for what you do and the role that you play in our worship experiences. And as many of us alluded to throughout, it would not be the same without your God given gifts and without what you do. So just, on the other side of things, we truly appreciate you all and your gifts. And, it can be a lot. And we understand that it can be heavy sometimes, just as any ministry, but know that your labor is not in vain and the people of God are being edified and God is being glorified for you using your gift in the body of Christ. So thank you, gentlemen, for the work that you do, the labor you do in the kingdom. We appreciate you. Listen, this has been a wonderful, wonderful night. This has wrapped up the second part of our Musician Tell All episode. It was so good. I know you're going to go back and watch it. So when you go back and watch it, share it again. Tell people come on in the room again and have another conversation surrounding it because it was just that good. Thank you for tuning in. We have a bunch of amazing episodes and amazing guests lined up for this season. So make sure you stay connected with us on any social platform, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. We're all there. A Church Girl and or Churchy Chats. I'm already looking forward to next week's episode and to seeing you. Thank you so much. And I will see you next week. Same place, same time on Churchy Chats with the Church Girl. Until next time, stay churchy, folks. Good night.